advisors, I'm super excited to introduce you to Elements in Real Life. This is a series of videos we're putting together to help you better understand how to do financial planning with Elements. Each week, Elements advisors will take real client questions and show you how they use the vital signs to provide real advice. So check it out, and of course, don't forget to like and subscribe.
All right, welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Eric Rodriguez, CFP. I'm the founder of Wealth Builders LLC, based out of Encinitas, California. We are a solo RIA. We work virtually with clients across the country. I'm a happy Elements ambassador, and I've been using Elements now for a little over a year. So excited to talk about how we use it in the firm and walk through a case today.
Yeah, and I'm Scott Frank, founder of Stone Steps Financial, also in Encinitas, California. I have a firm with myself and 3 other employees where we work with about 90 clients, all of which use Elements. And we've been using Elements for about 2 years, and also happy to be an Elements ambassador.
Yes, well, we hope that we're providing value today. We think we'll provide value on how we're utilizing Elements in our firms. And so I thought what we would do today, Scott, is we'll walk through a client case. Obviously, the name is changed, but a recent client that came through the door. And again, this is a client that I've never worked with before. So what you all are going to see today, what you're going to see today, Scott, is exactly what I saw the first engagement that we had with this client.
Perfect.
I should also say, as Scott also does, is we practice financial life planning at my firm, Wealth Builders. So initially, we're talking about client goals, values, how they visualize their future, what drives them, et cetera. So I think what everybody will get from this episode is how we can apply those principles when we're actually reviewing the Elements scorecard, which is a big part of the Elements software. And for me, and I know you too, Scott, has been just an absolute game changer in my practice to be more efficient, to provide the best advice I can as a CFP, and just really engage clients to make action.
Yeah, no, 100%, Eric. I couldn't agree more. And the idea that, we're going to show you guys a scorecard, but I think the key to me in doing this in practice in an ongoing way with clients is it's not about one scorecard like the one we're going to look at today. It's about the change that happens in the scorecard and those numbers over time. And it's all about the story that happens in between those changes and those numbers. Does that make sense to you, Eric?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
All right. Well, let's jump into it. So let's talk a little bit about this client. So first off, this is a single person, recently divorced, 2 kids, 3 and 5, and very high income earner. So $1 million base salary with another, call it a little over 745,000 of equity compensation and bonuses as well. So very high income earner, and a fun case that we're going to share today. And from a life planning perspective, one of the things that we uncovered initially in our engagement was that this individual doesn't have a lot of family support. So when it comes to the children, it's really about setting up their financial future, not retiring with a gazillion dollars. It's really just using her money now to create memories, travel the world, do this now versus later on in life. Also, another thing that was uncovered during the life planning process is there's a lot of family health, negative family health history with this individual. Hence the reason why they want to live now in the present moment. And so the challenge with this was how does this individual balance that, but also accomplish the number one goal they have, which is set up their financial future, and also knowing that the income might not be sustainable for 20 plus years.
Right.
There's been conversations of maybe joining the FIRE movement and
Okay,
claiming financial independence in 10 years. So I'm sure we'll have fun with that with the scorecard. But
cool.
this individual does not have the traditional trajectory of working 25, 30 plus years and is not naive because they know they're not going to be making 1.7 plus million dollars every year for the rest of their life.
Right.
So that's just a quick background of the client from a qualitative perspective.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions on that? Did I miss anything?
But just so I round out what I heard, just to make sure I'm not missing it for the audience too. So Carpe Diem wants to seize the day, especially with the kids, and wants to make sure the kids are financially stable in the future. Also has health issues that need to be tended to in the family. So might need to make sure there's some health span, lifespan things going on there for her. Income may not stay this high forever. So really need to be mindful of that, probably with how we choose to live life now and how we choose to save today. And then the only thing I don't know the answer to that I'm wondering about is time, because she said time with her kids is really important, seeing the world, but she's also making this really high income, usually restricts time outside of work. So did you guys get to talk about that?
Yes, and that's part of the reason of potentially maybe joining FIRE movement.
Okay.
And those of you that don't know FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early.
Yeah.
Not maybe retire at 55 versus 65 or something, because the job is very demanding, very demanding.
All right, cool. Let's dive in, man.
All right, let's dive in. But what I have in front of me is I have the Elements scorecard, and what we're going to do is we're going to touch on not every single element, but I think we'll tackle a handful of them and share best practices on how we would apply our knowledge as CFPs and initially help this client reach their goals. So I guess I'll throw it back to you, Scott. So looking at this scorecard here, what catches your eye right off the bat?
The way we design Elements is designed is it commonly helps you answer 4 questions. The first question is, what risks are you taking? So along the top, we have the equity rate and the insurance rate. And so 2 things I see immediately are equity rate's only 8%. So I'm like, well, what are you doing to save for your future? I'm worried there. I want to learn more. And then next is insurance rate at 4%. Now, insurance rate's a little murky, but it's looking at things like life insurance, disability insurance, and umbrella insurance. And so I'm just wondering if she's covered enough to protect her family right away. Those are the things I think about for risk. I'm just going to keep going really quickly, and then let's dive into the ones that matter, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Next, we go down. We have 4 elements across the board in the middle. So we have savings rate, burn rate, which is how much you spend in a year, debt rate, which is how much debt do you have, and tax rate. So she's saving 2% of her income, spending 17%. Debt rate is 4%. Now, 4 and 17 together is 21%. That's how much she's spending. And then 37% is going to taxes. So I have a couple of questions I'd want to know more about. How much, one, can we be saving more to create FIRE if that's what she really wants? 2, that tax rate's pretty high. Is there anything we can do to drive it down? Right. And then 3, I just want her to know she's doing great relative to her current income. Burn rate and debt rate are totally fine. But I probably want to know, what does she think a sustainable amount of income could be for her if she thinks she's in these big earning years? Because I want to make sure those numbers are safe if we drop her income down. And then finally, we get down to the bottom row. The bottom row answers 2 questions. So the second row, top row is, what risks are we taking? Second row is, what are we doing with our money? Third row is, what's the mix of our assets and what is financial freedom? And so if we take, how much does she spend a month? Because you have liquid term scores here, but we don't have numbers in front of us.
Yeah, so she spends, estimate, $360,000 per year.
So about 30,000 a month right now. Yeah. So we have some, if you take, so these liquid term and qualified term and real estate term and total term, all that that's really saying is, if you take all of in the liquid term, it's 2.3. So if you take all of her liquid assets, so her cash and her checking account, savings account, maybe she has a taxable brokerage account, maybe some of the vested shares of stock she has, take the value of all of those, divide it by 360,000 a year. She has 2.3 years. That's what that means. And so when you go across and you look at all those things, we see the mix of assets. The mix of assets, nothing jumps out at me that's scary. But again, I just want to make sure it's all getting optimized. And I just like
Yeah.
totally threw up on you. But did I get any of them right for the things that you were worried about when you started working with your client?
Yeah, absolutely. So a hack that I use, I learned a long time ago, and this is something I apply to every single client when they walk through my virtual office doors. And that is something I apply, something called the Monopoly rule. And so before we talk about fun stuff like investments and tax planning and real estate optimization and cash flow, all these other things, I use the Monopoly rule. So just like the game of Monopoly, you can't pass go unless you do certain things, right?
Yeah.
So in my world, there's 4 things they need to do before they pass go.
Right.
So the first thing they need to do is they need to establish an emergency fund, right?
Yes.
So for this individual, being the sole provider, head of household, high income earner, they need minimum 6 months, which they have here on the liquid term, right? But they need minimum 6 months in the emergency account. They need the proper life insurance in place to protect their income in case they pass away.
Yep.
They need to be contributing maximum if possible to their retirement accounts. If they can't do the max, at least enough to get the match, but we gotta make that a priority. And the last thing, if they have any bad debt, if they have credit cards, if they have car loans, we want to pay those off as soon as possible. Once we attack that, then we can jump into kind of more strategic items, what relative to their financial situation. So based on that Monopoly rule, we can see, yes, we definitely need more life insurance. There's a huge gap there between what they have and what they need to get.
Totally.
Savings rate is super low, right? So 2% at that income level, that savings rate needs to be higher. So I would question the client, like, hey, is this accurate? Because this seems really low. And 9 times out of 10, it's always they're forgetting an account, they're putting money in, or maybe they did some wrong calculations.
Totally.
That's the other thing, right? Using this savings rate element to figure that out.
Validate the data. Yeah.
Yep. And then I would also look at the second line here, and this is basically the cash flow. And so looking at tax rate, debt, burn, savings rate, that only adds up to what, 60% of their income.
Yep.
So where's the other 40% going?
Yep. My assumption is that it's accumulating in their stock account and they're doing nothing with it. Like they're clipping off RSUs and it's just growing and it's becoming a larger concentrated position. I'm just, if I had to guess.
Yeah. My initial guess was, I don't think this burn rate is accurate. I think you're spending more money.
Oh, for sure too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No one ever, if someone comes to you and they're like, I spend 30,000 a month, like just inflate it by 20%. If you come to me and you're like, I spend $18,742 a month, I'm going to believe you. Cause that means you actually like took the time to get the real number.
Yes, exactly. And so, going to the retirement contribution. So the qualified term here, we're seeing 0.6, right? So that's basically what, a little over 6 months that someone could live off their qualified accounts. So I would question, so I have a list of 2 accounts they have, but maybe there's an IRA that's missing. Maybe there's an old 401k that's missing or something. But for that income level, again, I think that's pretty low. And so once we kind of look through these elements and kind of pick and choose, how we can apply the Monopoly rule to that, then we can start talking about, okay, you wanted to potentially retire at age 55. Right. So looking at this, the beautiful part about Elements, this is the one thing that I think Elements has that no other tool has. And I was always looking for this in the past, is how can I articulate what a financial independence number could be for somebody?
Totally.
And what's the simplest way to do it?
So easy.
With total term, right? Obviously not accounting for tax, inflation, investment.
Can you explain what total term is doing, just so people understand? Because they've maybe never heard of it before.
Yeah. So total term is basically adding up all of your assets, right? So liquid term is bank accounts, brokerage accounts, stocks, etc. Qualified term are basically retirement accounts, qualified accounts, IRAs, 401ks, Roth IRAs, etc. Real estate term is the amount of equity that you have in your in your home or investment properties. And so
Yep.
when with all of those added up, you get a score. So in
Yeah.
this person's situation, their total term score is 9.7. We like
Right.
to see this number at minimum 25, but at best 30. And basically what that means is if you stop making income today, you stop working today, you could go 9.7 years if you had to sell everything, right?
If you don't change your spending.
You don't change your spending. Yes.
Yeah. So like to Eric's point, like the liquid term, I explained it before, is 2.3. So if it's on $360,000 of spend in a year, right? All I have to do is multiply times 2.3 and I can know there's $828,000 of liquid assets, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we look at the total and we know it's a $360,000 a year spend, they have about 3.492 million right now. Well, one of the coolest things you can do with this math is you can just show people that the choice that they get to make in life is how much do I want to spend versus how much do I need, right? So if they decide to start spending 20,000 a month instead, right? Well, then by changing nothing other than their spending patterns, they now have 14 and a half years of assets instead of having 9.7 years of assets. So you're just helping them understand the differential between how much do we spend and how much do we need. And it makes so much sense.
Yeah. And again, this is not including for investment performance, for, inflation, any of that, but this is just living in today, present moment today.
Well, but that's what I love about it though, Eric, because
yeah,
on traditional planning software that we used to use, like we'd try to go forecast what inflation is going to be next year and what's the rate of return going to be 20 years from now and what's healthier going to be 20 years from now. And none of us know that. We don't make that guess with stock performance with our clients, yet we do it with their future cash flows. And I just love the present value of this.
Yeah, me too. And I don't know about you, Scott, but for me, one of the key elements that I use to track someone's financial health is total term. That's probably the number one element that I track. And the goal for a client is to, depending on how close they are to retirement, or I hate saying retirement, but the work optional age or being financially independent.
Right.
The goal is to increase this, a couple percentage points a year, if possible, via savings, via investments, maybe lowering expenses. There's different ways to massage it.
Yeah.
But, in this client situation, for them to want to retire in 15 years, I mean, I think it's very doable, right? As you mentioned, lowering expenses, maybe selling a property, because obviously you can see this person has a lot of real estate equity, 6.9. I mean, selling a property would probably get them to 15 overnight, maybe even 20, depending on how much equity they have.
Yeah, totally, man. That just makes so much sense. Well, I'm so glad we got to do this case together, man. Anything else for you before we wrap up?
No, I think we covered it. So
cool.
Appreciate you all. Hope you guys got some value out of that. And again, feel free to reach out to the Elements team or us individually. There'll be links below, I'm sure. And we look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, Eric.
See ya.
So what did you think about that? We'd love to hear your thoughts about how we answered that question. Do you think that you would have answered it differently? Comment below and let us know. Now, if you have a scorecard that you want us to dissect, or a client question you want answered using Elements but aren't sure how, send us the client's one-page plan to cs@getelements.com, and we hope to catch you next time.